Political Editor Andrew Clennell and the Herald Sun's National Political Editor Tom Manier. Gentlemen, thank you both. Andrew, you've got some information just to hand in relation to Shaoquett Moselmane, this Labor MP that was raided by ASIO. Bring it to our viewers for us.
It is my understanding, Kieran, that four senior Labor MPs in the New South Wales Parliament have lobbied Jodi McKay to attempt to force Shaoquett Moselmane to resign from Parliament. So I expect some action as soon as today, and I think it's likely that Shaoquett Moselmane will end up resigning from Parliament. That will clean up a big problem for the Labor Party in New South Wales, but almost senior people on the front bench there in New South Wales saying, just get this guy out of here.
Tom, I was interested to read in your newspaper, the Herald Sun, that state and federal MPs that you and your colleagues have spoken to fear that they're continuing to take on water over Victoria's links to China as well.
Yeah, that's right, Kieran. I think the Belt and Road deal, obviously in Victoria, has been particularly controversial in recent weeks, and I think there has been a growing sense of concern among some state and federal Labor MPs about the implications of that. I think the thing that they're most worried about is that while Belt and Road and the relationship with China has sort of seemed to be a little bit of a beltway political issue in some ways for voters in the past, obviously what we've seen with China in recent times is starting to potentially have more of an impact on the everyday lives of Victorians. And, if we end up in a situation where international students, for instance, aren't coming, we've had the warnings against international students coming to travel here, the trade restrictions on barley and beef. If those things start flowing through then to actually impacting people's employment at an already really difficult time, then I think the fear is among Labor MPs that then that becomes it sort of paints their relationship with China and things like the Belt and Road Agreement in a new light and potentially becomes a bigger negative for them. And instead of being able to say, look, this is all about jobs, all of a sudden voters might be feeling like, well, it's about jobs, but actually not in a good way.
Yeah, indeed. The Prime Minister was asked about the ASIO raids on Friday. Have a look.
I think the actions of the Australian Federal Police and ASIO demonstrate that the threats in this area are real, the need to take action is necessary, and the government is absolutely determined to ensure that nobody interferes with Australia's activities.
The Prime Minister speaking late last week. Andrew, you mentioned earlier, and it was a point that I put to Tanya Plibersek as well, that some in Labor are saying, well, why does Victoria, the branch, get suspended on the basis of a branch stacker? Yet you've had a number of episodes here in the New South Wales Labor branch of China links that were inappropriate.
And I think we saw reports in the Australian that Anthony Albanese was considering the New South Wales branch suspension, but that some of the right MPs in federal caucus actively lobbied against this, and so it didn't happen. I have to say, amidst all this, Shaoquett Moselmane, Ernest Wong, there have been allegations against him before. These guys are no-names. They have no real influence. They have a bit of fundraising influence, and I guess they can bring numbers, which talks to the danger of the leadership contest in the Labor Party involving ordinary branch members voting for being half the contingent of votes, by the way, because we've seen now with Adam Somyurek and now with Shaoquett Moselmane, they can have some power that way. But this guy had no influence over any policy decision whatsoever. This is in contrast to the situation with Sam Dastyari. In my mind, the Sam Dastyari scandal, and to see him call for a Royal Commission yesterday really raised my eyebrows, is the worst that we've seen so far. This guy was trying to get Labor policy changed because of donations from various figures in the Chinese community, one of whom since been called an agent of foreign influence. And he had some of his bills paid for by some people in the Chinese community. So, look, I think that Sam Dastyari really was much more of a concern, the scandal around him, than the matters yesterday, which have resulted in ASIO raids. Now, more details may come to light, and there might be a lot more to it, but everyone I spoke to yesterday said the focus is more on Moselmane's staffer than Moselmane himself.